Hello and welcome to ARIRANG News Break. I'm Han-daeun in Seoul. We're going to start with the weather as the skies have opened here in Seoul. A seasonal monsoon front is currently moving northward across the peninsula, bringing heavy rain and blustery winds with it. Kim Hae-sung has more.
It would be advisable to stay indoors if you're in Korea. Heavy rain alerts have been issued across most of the nation, including Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi-do province. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, Korea's central region, including Seoul, will see up to 200 millimeters of rain over the next 2 days, with other regions seeing around 50 to 100 millimeters. Southern parts of the peninsula have already been seeing heavy rainfall, with heavy rain advisories issued in Busan, Jeollado province, and Chungcheongdo province. Some areas have been seeing downpours of 30 millimeters an hour, causing property damage, injuries, and traffic jams. This marks the heaviest rainfall so far this summer, so make sure to take the necessary precautions when out and about. Experts suggest you avoid parking in underground garages and stay away from street lamps and power lines due to the risk of electric shock. When at home, check whether your pipes are functioning well, and factories and buildings are advised to follow safety regulations more closely. Residents living in low-lying areas where flooding or landslides are possible should also be aware of evacuation areas and have an emergency contact. Adding to the weather ooze, the first typhoon of the season may also affect Korea over the course of the week. Typhoon Nepatak, currently south of Guam, is forecast to move toward Taiwan in the coming days and could have an indirect impact on Korea. Kim Hae-sung, ARIRANG News.
President Park Geun-hye has renewed her call to boost national security and the economy. At a regular cabinet meeting on Monday, President Park commented on the recent terror attack in Bangladesh, saying there are no safe havens and the government must do all it can to protect the people. She also touched on the impact of Brexit on global financial markets and said that despite unfavorable conditions both at home and abroad, Seoul must seek to foster future growth engines and explore new markets overseas. She also stressed that restructuring and reforms must go on and encouraged people to spend their summer vacations in Korea to boost domestic consumption and economic sentiment. Lawmakers are in for a couple of long days as the first parliamentary interpellation session of this National Assembly begun today. Government officials are fielding questions from lawmakers, and with several sensitive topics to cover, the Q&A sessions have already heated up with the ruling and opposition parties voicing contrasting opinions. Lee Min-young reports.
The first interpellation session of the 20th National Assembly kicked off on Monday morning, which will see government officials quizzed by lawmakers over the next 2 days. With a number of contentious issues on the table, clashes between the ruling party and the opposition are to be expected. On Monday, lawmakers will mainly be focusing on economic policy, and during the morning session, the ruling and the opposition parties collided over a proposed corporate tax hike. The main opposition Minju Party of Korea has advocated for a higher corporate tax rate, saying it's the government's responsibility to use the extra funds for vulnerable populations. It has proposed a bill to push tax rates up to 25% from 22% for companies with a tax base above $43 million. The ruling Saenuri Party disagreed, saying it's not the right time and it will only burden the economy amid the current global market uncertainties. Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-ahn sided with the ruling party, saying the government will avoid tax hikes that place a burden on people and businesses. In terms of foreign exchange policy, Representative Lee Jong-gu of the ruling party voiced the need for a managed floating exchange rate system like China, saying market turbulence following Britain's unexpected decision to leave the European Union could trigger a potential currency war. Prime Minister Hwang said the government is comprehensively reviewing a system that would allow the government to be more involved in rate settings. Non-economic issues will be the focus of discussions on Tuesday, including security, parliamentary corruption scandals, and the toxic humidifier disinfectant scandal. Lee Min-young, ARIRANG News.
The holy month of Ramadan has been marred by a series of attacks around the world, the majority of which have been claimed by the Islamic State militant group. Our Hwang Ho-jun has the latest.
A month of prayer and fasting, commemorating the Muslim faith, has been turned into a month of violence and mourning, as terrorist attacks by the Islamic State militant group have left hundreds of people around the world dead or injured. There have been more than 80 terror attacks linked to ISIS since the start of Ramadan on June 5th. These include mass shootings, mass executions, and suicide bombings. At least 9 of those have had a death toll higher than 20. Most recently, 20 hostages, most of them foreigners, were killed at a bakery cafe in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and a bombing in Baghdad early Sunday left at least 130 dead, including 25 children, turning preparations for the end of Ramadan into a nightmare.
Is this the Eid we should celebrate? People came to buy clothes to celebrate Eid. Now they're buying coffins. May God punish those who are responsible.
ISIS officially claimed responsibility for the Bangladesh hostage crisis and the Baghdad bombing. But ISIS doesn't always claim responsibility for these kind of attacks. Experts say they can tell whether ISIS was involved because their signature has become more recognizable, including the use of suicide vests, coordinated bombings, and shooting sprees to block the police response. Also, ISIS usually focuses its attacks on soft targets, civilians including women and children, especially those who interpret the Quran differently. The attackers are generally in their 20s and predominantly male, and they're more likely to be second or third generation immigrants. Hwang Ho-jun, ARIRANG News.
And that wraps it up. Keep it tuned to ARIRANG for more domestic and global news updates throughout the day. Thank you for watching.